Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you've actually been enjoying the videos that we've been posting so far on the channel, whether that be the longer podcast style videos or the shorts that have been going up from those episodes. Once again, I'm joined by Tony today. How you going, mate?
Still vertical.
Still vertical. We're upright, we're standing. You might notice that we are wearing the same clothes from the last episode because we have just turned the cameras off and back on again. But our topic today is a very, very controversial one, but one that I'm extremely passionate about. And it's something that I deal with almost on a daily basis. And I get an interesting perspective on this from a few different aspects of my role and my roles previous to what I currently do at work. It is the impact that social media has played or that continues to play on society, but more importantly, in the lives of young people, because we know that access to social media through the means of podcasts, but more so in the means of TikTok, YouTube, Instagram Reels, is having a significant impact on the mental health and physical health sometimes of young people within our community. So just buckle yourselves in, because this is going to be a bit of an interesting episode today, because it is something that we're both really, really passionate about. And it was something that when we'd started piecing together ideas for content, this was one that we were both pretty keen to address. And we just wanted to spend a little bit of time getting things right, such as the audio, such as the lighting and the cameras, to make sure that when we did this episode, it was going to be to the quality that we were happy with. So,
and I think this is an episode that will definitely carry on, not just one episode, because this topic is so broad. There's so much involved in this topic that we're going to have to do this over a couple.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of different avenues that come from this as well. So today we're really going to hyperfixate on the aspects in relation to stereotypes around health and fitness, body perception, body image. You can dabble into almost things like eating disorders because of the complexities around body image. It's definitely something that I've seen seriously impact many, many people. And it is something that I'm extremely passionate about as a health and PE teacher, around upskilling knowledge around social norms, social pressures, and the influence of social media. So I'm going to let Tony, as always, kick off maybe with some of the big ticket items so we can get straight into the nitty gritties.
Well, the conversation started where Paul and I were talking about, we finished school 10 and a bit years ago now, and social media was very different when we were in school. Very different. Instagram might have been a dodgy, blurry photo of you and your mate at a party and 10 people like it and your mum comments on it or something, right? It was not anywhere near the scale of what it is. And obviously it's grown, but it's definitely impacted, I think, more the youth of today. And youth can be thrown out very, very lightly because, there's 10-year-olds on social media. I don't even have a phone at 10 years old. It just wasn't that accessible. And because it's so accessible, everybody's on it.
Yeah.
I see kids scrolling on the iPads through YouTube and TikTok, and, some of the things that they are looking at, they shouldn't be. And this
how much of it they get is the question. Like,
I think it's just being exposed to things
100%.
that
they're
just not age relevant.
Yeah, not age appropriate.
Like at 10 years old, we were kicking the ball around, and all right, maybe we're playing PlayStation occasionally, but our parents had
GTA.
Yeah, all right, well, that's not a good example, but but our parents had a pretty good lockdown on our time with games and TV and whatever else. So we were most of the time playing outside. Me and Dom, if we were at the farm, we were digging holes and just playing out. We were just outside most of the time. It was literally worst days where it was raining and you couldn't be outside. We were inside. But even then, we had board games.
We weren't sat there next to each other scrolling, looking at TikToks and then waiting for a good one and go, oh, look what, look at this.
I found. Yeah. So I think there's a big thing with how people feel towards topics. So this can really go positive and negative, right? So there's a lot, obviously, of people out there that are, quote, influencers, whatever you want to call them, that will sway people one way because of the power they've got, the following they've got. It almost confuses people about the topic. So health and fitness, right? So the positive out of what I'm going to say is it allows anyone and everyone to share their story, right? As long as their story is having a positive effect on people, great. Now, we'll talk female fitness influencers, right? The thing with women, and I say this very lightly with all due respect, but it's almost an instant comparison. Oh, she looks like that. What they don't understand is that's her job. They're getting paid to look like that, right? They don't have to worry about going to work as a teacher to come home to cook and clean. Like they literally, like that's their job.
Or to be able to go to the gym and look after themselves that way. Like
right.
The pressures are, if you're being paid to look a certain way, you're getting sponsorship deals for supplements. You're getting sponsorship deals for activewear. You're getting, free gym memberships. Aspect. Like if your job is a health and fitness influencer, even if they are paying for things that are required for their job, such as cameras, microphones, gym equipment, memberships,
supplied.
Everything is either supplied or tax deductible so that it's an actual expense for their job. So that's the one thing that, again, we spoke about this in the last episode about sacrifice. You don't get that perspective unless you know the people in the industry.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that there. There is a misconception that that's, a societal standard for a physique, whereas it's maybe having the appreciation that, okay, that person is working pretty hard, but what's the constraints around them being able to actually do that?
Yeah, yeah. And I think, like, for guys, right, like, we saw a guy on there, big buff dude with six-pack, whatever, we can appreciate and go, that's hard work to get there. So the perception from my eyes is I respect the hustle, that's what you look like and that's what you're doing, but I also know that's your job. 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever your hustle is, like if you're getting paid to look like that, you should look like that. It's when I see the dude take off his suit in the gym and he's ripped, I go, that I probably respect more because you're sacrificing something to look like that. Whereas you see people on Instagram, like that's their job. That's the sacrifice they've made is to keep that look, to look like that because of the impact they're trying to have.
Well, it might be that,
which isn't always a negative.
Yeah, they might have been able to build that through their passion for health and fitness, and then it gets to a point where they're able to be paid for it, and they go, well, this is a hobby, and now I'm generating an income from my hobby, and I want to share that message with, as many people as I can. And then that's awesome. Like that's, we can't sit here and say that if we had that opportunity that we'd say no to that because,
I wouldn't.
This
I definitely wouldn't.
For us, this is a hobby and this is what we're passionate about. And whether it takes off or not, for us to share our views around anything health and fitness related, we're going to do that regardless. Regardless if it's generating an income, obviously it'd be nice, but any sponsors out there, hit us up. But
Nike, if you're listening.
But for us, it's about we're in positions where we can kind of not say what we want, but we can be unbiased.
Yeah.
We can go, look.
Can cut through the bullshit and be real because this is all positive. We're not trying to be negative about anything. It's all about sending the positive message to people. And
it's about bettering people's lives and bettering people's
100%.
situations and trying to use some of the wisdom that we've managed to collect over the last particular 10 years.
Wisdom at 28. But I think as well, like for us, another thing, and it does come back to social media because guys won't really say it or talk about it, but like a lot of guys around us don't talk about their feelings and their problems and their this and their that, right? And that's bad. That's not good. I'm not saying social media is the problem for that, but it's very easy to get caught up in, oh, that guy's got a nice car. Oh, that guy's got a nice body. Oh, why don't I have hair like that? Or why doesn't my suit look like that? Like, it's so easy to build so many negative thoughts and you don't even realize you're doing it while you're scrolling through or whatever. So that's another reason, I guess, why we wanted to do this. It's trying to be positive, but it's also pretty straight up, cut through the shit. This is what we think. And you don't have to agree with it, but this is where I think social media has had a big impact on men and women. Like, I won't generally speak for women because I don't know.
It's definitely had an impact on society. Like, it's funny because more and more now, the way that things like Instagram, Facebook, the way that, especially with the meta side of things, because it's sort of so, you can see what they've done. Reels that get posted on Instagram are now being spat over to Facebook because there's a whole demographic on Facebook that aren't on Instagram. So they're still, they're getting access to that content. It's smart marketing, but it's also exposing the same reels that are popular to more people. So then that message becomes not more accepted, but it gets obviously seen more and it becomes normalized. And it's got the positive effect of, if it is, like I used people that use meal prep for an example. There's not really a whole lot of negative that comes from people sharing healthy meals, that are affordable. And the amount of people you see scrolling through Facebook and it's like, oh, this reel comes up of someone that does overnight oats, or this person does, meal prep chicken a different way. Awesome. But for me, where I get the issue is it's paid sponsored ads that use certain...
Like the algorithms that the phones are listening to you.
Look, you get into all of that.
But it all happens that way. With all the
more for me that big companies use certain images, and I'm not going to go into details, in order to drive interest.
Yeah.
Can understand it. There's obviously a lot of research that goes into that, but what doesn't get spoken about is the impact that those, especially the big brands, they've got a massive say in what
100%.
gets seen as normal. Because everyone is chasing the new Tech Fleece or the new Ultra Boost or whatever, the new iPhone 15 Pro Max. And those companies have such power in their advertisement that people are scared to not stray away from the pack because they don't want to be perceived as not having what's socially acceptable. To then not fall behind the rest of the the community, which is sad for me because it's like, if you don't want an iPhone, don't buy an iPhone. If you don't care about wearing Nike, like there's all these little things that it's like, I see at school, like all these kids are rolling around with iPhone 15s. I go, how? Like, it's cool, like, awesome, but like, do you need it? Yeah.
You don't.
But the thing is, once one's got it,
it starts.
The next one needs it, and the same with tech fleeces. I go,
you're talking $250 tracksuits,
and I go like, what's like? Why can't you just buy the $80 version? It's still got the cuffed pants. It's still a nice, but you know what I mean. But it's just like there's such a pressure, the social stigma and the social pressure about needing, and it's just it.
Well, even shoes, like. Like you can't just have the normal Adidas Boost. It has to be the Ultra Boost. It has to be the $300 one. You can't walk around in the $180 or $200 pair, whatever it is. Or like the good example when we were in high school, the Nike Free Run.
Yeah.
The worst shoe
blew up
ever made by far for any support or comfort. They might have been good for lifting weights, but they were not good for physical activity outside of lifting weights.
Yeah, going to the gym.
But you were like, if you didn't have a pair, it was like you were uncool.
I was lucky I didn't have
a pair, but
like
that was a trend.
My foot was too wide and I couldn't get my feet into them, and I was glad because...
But that was like a real minor trend.
Even thing like,
but it's true.
When we were younger, like even things like Asics Tigers.
Yeah, they were killer.
And the same thing, I jammed my feet into 2 pairs of those bloody shoes and I was like, nah. Like, I tried, hurt,
no
nah. Good. And, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to be hypocritical. Like...
we've all followed trends. We've all done it. We've been there.
The issue there is, but when you're 14, 15, you don't know better. And this is part of the problem. Like, you don't...
No.
The pressure of not fitting in outweighs not your morals, but maybe what you know is right. Because I think most young people do know that this stuff doesn't actually matter.
No.
But they don't want to be the talk of the town going, oh, have you seen little Johnny's not got the right shoes on? Or he's got an old phone.
Yeah.
Like,
I think as well, when we were in high school, it was a bit different. Like,
majorly.
You had a pair of Tigers, but we probably had one, right? Guaranteed everyone had the black and white ones, right? And that was it. It wasn't like you needed to have 10 pairs or you needed to have the latest Tigers. It was almost like that's what they made and that was kind of it. Whereas now, like the iPhone 15, like you just said, like, what's that worth? $2,000? It's a phone. Like, if you don't have it, it's not cool, whatever, like that. I don't understand. But that's social media impact. Yeah. That's people seeing.
I've had students rolling around with more expensive phones than me. And now, I'm not trying to flex, but I've been a professional for many, many years. Yes, I don't go looking for a phone.
Yeah.
I might have my phone for 3 years, but I'm seeing, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids with $1,500 to $2,000 phones that they can't even use.
Yeah. Because they're just texting and Snapchatting and TikToking.
So they're expensive social media devices. That's what they are. Yeah. Like, they don't even get the benefit of the actual phone because they don't have credit. So it's just like, it baffles, it really drives the message home about the marketing around the social pressure.
I'll talk about people in my industry. Even better. This is adults with money now, not kids, right? Expensive European cars, right? Every real estate agent's going to drive one, right? I think I'm the only one that drives a Ranger. And it's not even mine, it's my father-in-law's. So it's a perception to be wealthy in our industry because it makes you look successful.
It's an image.
Right? It's an image, right? Problem is, I can guaranteed, 95% of those people driving those cars have them on lease. Which, look, tax benefits, this, that, and the other, but the bank owns it. They don't own it, right? But that's all it is. It's a perception. I can see them wearing $5,000, $6,000, $10,000 watches, and what for? Definitely doesn't make you a better person. It definitely doesn't make you better at your job, right? So I can say, like, there's people out there who've got those things that deserve them because they've worked hard, right? But they're not the sort that use it as an image.
Yeah.
It's a goal or it's something that they want because they've worked hard to get it. But they're also the sort that will spend $10,000 a year. Instead of buying themselves a new tag or whatever, they'll spend it on education, getting a business coach in, getting a mindset coach in, growing their business, doing those sorts of things where I find that's more valuable than there's no point in you rocking up in a Rolls Royce, but everyone else that you work with has to drive their mum and dad's Corolla to work because they don't have a car.
Yeah.
Like, that's another perception. So guys like Andrew Tate, right? Like, he said some dumb shit that I don't agree with, but I generally agree with his message where he talks about, men should be able to be what we are. We need our alone time. We need this, with that. And he advocates for guys following their dreams, right? Yes, is he wealthy, whatever else? 100%. But we don't see how he got that wealth. We just see him driving Bugattis and wearing Rolexes and doing this and being fit and healthy. And now it's an image for him.
Yeah,
right?
and it's...
But where I was going with that...
People like him, though. This is where I sit on the fence because there's not a lot of education around his messaging.
No.
So people can take anything online.
It's very radical.
Yeah, people can take anything online in whatever way, shapes, or fits their argument or their perception. So a lot of younger males, I'm not going to go into details, take messages that are misogynistic from views like that, and it actually perpetuates
takes it
the
in the
wrong message.
Yeah.
And that's my worry when it comes back to social media. You see a short for 30 seconds on YouTube, you misinterpret it, or it is a negative. It could be a negative short. Again, not here to pass judgment, but it actually has a lot of power.
Of course it does.
A 30-second clip gets your attention more than a 30-minute video, unless you're really passionate about that video. Yeah. But it might be the little grab that gets you, and you're like, you've actually changed morally what you believe or makes you question, but with not a lot of substance or evidence behind it.
That's actually a good example because there was one of him, someone pulled him up, some TikToker that asks people what they do for a living, right? He's pulled up in his Bugatti and he said to the guy, I punch people's faces in for a living, right? And it's got all these clips of him when he was a world champion kickboxer. It's not what he does now. He was a world champion kickboxer years ago, well and truly, right? So that instant perception there, That's one little kind of way to look at it. Whereas most people don't know, he actually runs a platform. I don't know if it's just for males. I can't really say because I'm not on there. But he runs a platform where it helps business owners try and grow their business. It's also like an educational platform. People don't see that because they don't invest the time into learning about it. They'll just see the 30-second clip of him bragging about how he owns millions of dollars worth of cars, or, you know, girls, or this or that, or training, or this. And they see his image and go, oh, yeah, well, you know, he's successful and whatever else. They don't see the rest of it because it's easier, like you said, to watch the 30-second clip, get an image of it, as opposed to, oh, I actually don't mind what he's saying. I'm going to listen to the full podcast and see why he's talking about his millions of dollars of cars.
Yeah.
So this is the hard part. Perception on social media of wealth, success, you know, what you should look like, what you should dress like, whatever else, can often be negative. Maybe the initial idea is not to be negative, but it can be, because it's an automatic thing where people go, I don't look like that. You know, oh yeah, but I train and I don't look like that. So it does create negative thoughts. Now, not everybody on social media that's an influencer or whatever else is negative. I don't believe that any gym influencer ever is trying to be negative at all. I think they're trying to create like health and fitness. Like, you can look like me, but you got to commit. You got to do this. You got to do that. And you look at most of them, they've also got links in their bio to their meal plans, their training regimes. Like,
yeah, they're trying to contribute to the community. Well. Yeah, they're trying to contribute and support people in, because they know who's coming across. It's either people that are aspiring to change their lives, or, you know, looking for support. So it's, you know, especially the health and fitness industry is a hard one, because it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's often taken in a bad way. I don't look like that, but that person is trying to either motivate or help you. Like, that's their job, like, to do that, you know, and they're good at what they do, and that's why it's on social media, and that's why you'd call them an influencer or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot more negatives
that come
from it. And one big one, which we've both spoke about, and you probably see it more at school in kids, I see it with adults, is social skills, communication is just horrible amongst younger generations, and even some older generations now who have adapted social media. I find that trying to communicate with younger people sometimes can be really hard, because they don't know how to interact face to face. It's all sending what were we saying before? Scrolling next to each other on the couch, going, oh, look what I've seen. That's their conversation.
Yeah.
That's not authentic. Not a conversation. Like, we didn't have that luxury growing up. So I'm not saying it's the parents' fault for allowing the kids to be on these things at all, because I don't know what I'm going to be like when that time comes with my son, so I won't say anything. But I've seen the effects of it, so there's got to be something that changes. I think early intervention, where send your kids to daycare or whatever else to meet randoms, because I can probably guarantee that my kid's going to feel super comfortable around all his cousins, people he knows, but it's people you don't know that you want to be able to communicate with.
And not be shy, and not be able to communicate and even hold a conversation, you know, like, you know, school's the place for it. And look, I don't like using it as an excuse, but COVID comes up all the time. Definitely. Like, especially now when I think about especially here in Australia, when we were impacted by it, now looking back 4 years now. So I'm looking at who my seniors are, who were in year 8 and year 9. So then you look at who are my year 7s and my year 8s, and then you take 4 years off of them. You're talking about year 3s and year 4s, and you're talking about, okay, these are some critical periods of their lives 100%. Where, you know, in where we are in Adelaide, minimal disruption. So not an excuse here, but if I was to look at maybe some stuff in Melbourne, it'd be interesting we've got any viewers from Victoria, because the constant lockdowns, and then in major cities around the world as well.
Even the overseas viewers, if there's anyone that was affected directly, would like to know, because it was an interesting time.
Yeah, because I think we were very lucky that, you know, our longest lockdown was 4 days, I think, you know, as a state. So our young people didn't lose. Okay, they lost some face-to-face learning. They lost some opportunities. They lost a lot of sport. there were things outside of school that a lot of opportunities that they lost for a year, but they didn't lose the face-to-face connection with a teacher and their classmates, for too long. Whereas I've seen some studies and I've seen some relevant information where those gaps are significant in those areas that had major lockdowns. And everyone knows that Melbourne was the most locked down city in the world. That's why I'm really interested
Shout
to
out
hear.
Dan Andrews.
Yeah, but that's why I'm really interested to hear the perspective of any teachers or people from Victoria around what maybe some of the thoughts are around those developmental delays almost, because, you look at your 18-year-olds when they were 13, they went through a period of isolation, and we actually don't know the long-term impacts that had. And what do you reckon they were doing when they were stuck at home for 6 months?
Well, I can tell you what we were doing when we were stuck at home for 4 days. We were playing PlayStation with each other.
So you can imagine.
Just imagine what they're doing.
You can imagine as teenagers in particular, but okay, I don't want to branch it onto teenagers because everyone was at home.
Yeah.
But I like using the teenagers example because potentially they don't know the risks of this isolation and being on devices for 18 hours a day. Over 6 months to a year, that's going to make a big difference, but it's also actually going to shake because you're in those real years where your brain is learning habits. It's not fully developed. There's a lot of science behind addiction, and then you're looking at coming out of that, and then we're looking at the rise of phones in schools, and we're looking at things like in South Australia where our public system has gone full hard ball on no phones in school and all the rest of it as a result of lockdown. So it's an interesting time here in Australia around young people's addiction to social media. Yeah. So if they're addicted to social media, they're seeing it more, they're seeing the message more, and they're not truly potentially understanding what's true, what's fiction, what's reality, what's someone's job, what's realistic, what is healthy. There's all these big ideas that you go, how do I navigate it? And the one thing I must say I'm glad that I'm a part of is this conversation exactly comes up in the health curriculum in South Australia.
That's good.
I'm currently teaching this at the moment, which is where the idea came from to actually voice it, because I was mid-lesson with a group of my young people, and I'm sat there and I'm like, I need to address this formally on social media. The whole lesson was around social media and the impact of social media on young people. And I was just having this conversation with my class, and I know a few of you are, listening to the clips. I don't know if this will be a clip on TikTok or not, but it may be. But this is why I value this education so much, because it actually has potential to make some pretty big impacts on young people, because they can actually critically analyze what they see and go, what's real? And the more we talk about it, the better we're going to be at recognizing it.
I don't want to say there's a generation, but there's definitely a age gap between where we grew up with definitely grew up with the growth of technology. Like when we were kids, it was PlayStation 1, which was like...
Yeah, when we were young.
Pixels left, right and center.
Nintendo, like Game Boys and 64, right? So Nintendo 64.
We grew up with the technology. And we're probably a generation that's going to be the best with technology because we've adapted with it, right? But we have seen the positives. So playing PlayStation when you were a kid was not a given right. It was like, all right, you've done your homework, you can have half an hour, or your cousins are coming over for a sleepover, like you can play PlayStation for a couple hours, right? So it was almost like a treat. Whereas now, like if you're not playing Fortnite with your mates every night or whatever, it's socially unacceptable. So when you talk about the impact of social media, there's so many different ways that can be conceived. Now, I look at it and go, we were very lucky where social media was just coming through.
It was booming as we got old enough to know.
To back off a bit. Or to know how to use it, I guess. To keep in contact with your mates and have a group chat. send each other some memes and laugh.
Yeah,
like
YouTube
that's how we would use it.
YouTube was a different place 10 years ago.
Oh, YouTube was so different.
Gaming videos, it was funny videos.
Soccer clips, it was footy highlights, music videos, yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't
The
long
influencing.
form. Well, there wasn't long form content creator.
Yeah. Blogs and there's
Podcast. Like Joe Rogan was kicking off, but
Yeah.
I had no idea who he was until a couple of years after we finished. But it wasn't like, I think he just started uploading videos around when we were in year 12,
Yeah.
I reckon, from memory.
Yeah.
But like podcast content was not easily accessible
No.
11 years ago. People didn't make a name. Like the biggest YouTubers, you look at like your KSIs, being silly playing FIFA. Not
That's
harmful.
literally what it was.
That was what was booming.
Literally what it was.
In our eyes as young people, that's what we valued from YouTube. If you imagined it was people sitting down with microphones and cameras and talking about social issues, we would never have seen that content now. Would that be because the algorithm wouldn't have thrown it to us? Who knows? But I don't think, even the way that mass media is now moved, you look at Sky Sports and what they're doing, you know, they've seen fan channels of the Premier League. Boom, they're replicating it. You look at the AFL here in Australia, the Australian Football League.
How many shows are there now? How many different footy shows
the actual footy show died.
Yeah.
But you look at trade radio when the trade season's on.
Yeah.
You look at SEN, what they're doing. They've got ex-players doing radio shows that they're now
Great.
filming and posting on YouTube. You now look, there's all these ex-players now that all have podcasts because the nature of video content creation, don't take that the wrong way, has changed from a media perspective
100%.
around the world globally. And I think, you know, for me, it actually started with the NFL. When I started watching the NFL in 2013, they had a streamed NFL fantasy show daily.
Yeah, great.
And I buzzed out as someone that played FPL, Dream Team, Super Coach. None of that content existed.
No.
I just used to pick players randomly because
hope for the best.
I knew enough about the game, but I had no research. And then I'm getting this show from America where there's people that are getting paid to give fantasy advice. And then 5 years later, well, not even, DT Talk were around. But then the AFL go, bang.
Yeah.
These guys, the ones that are leading the charge for fantasy football in Australia, contract them up. They've been contracted for 10 years or so with the AFL. Media organisations are recognising influence. And this is where I always go, what are the motivations of people online? And once you start seeing sponsors and whatnot, I start to go, all right, are you truly meaning what you say?
Yeah.
Or are you influenced by, it's funny I use that term intentionally there. Are you influenced by who's paying your bills?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's always a worry for me. Are you credible based on your views? And I love when, like, you know, I watch a lot of tech videos whenever I'm going to buy new tech. And sometimes they say, like at the start of the video, they have to say, I was provided with this, but I'm providing a unbiased opinion. And I always go, are you?
Are you though? Because if Apple paid me 10 grand to make a video about their phone and Samsung didn't pay me, I can definitely tell you which phone I'd be promoting.
Yeah. So
simple.
Anyway, that's
simple. But there's so many more branches to this as well. And it's not all negative, but there's definitely lots of negatives around what people are seeing. And I think it's up to us now to sort of branch out to be like, what's real, what's fake,
what's do a bit of digging.
Yeah, do a bit of digging. And that's why, like, you know, little things like you're seeing 20-year-olds drive around Ferraris and Lamborghinis, you know, and that's the expectation of kids now. Or, oh, look at these new Gucci shoes. Like, I see 16-year-olds wearing Gucci shoes. I don't even have Gucci shoes. All good?
Yeah. We've got 20% on the phone, so...
Damn. So
we
I'm
gotta
wrap this up.
Wrap it up.
So it's like the expectation, and where did they learn about Gucci shoes? I didn't even know what Gucci was till I was in like year 12.
Yeah.
Right? When you sort of understand fashion a little bit more or whatever. Like, how do they know about it? Is that parents' influence? Is it social media? Is it people like Speed that they see on their phone? Oh, cool, wow. And it's so accessible.
Yeah.
You can literally tap the link and get whatever you want.
So I think for a first look at the impact of social media, look, I think this may be something that we start talking to people about as well. Social media has a very interesting pull on a lot of people because it is something that we all use. And this is a point I made with the young people that I work with. I, as an adult, of course I have access to social media. We're posting this on YouTube.
Yeah.
I use Twitch. We're on TikTok. Like, you know, it's not saying that it's a bad thing.
No,
but
not at all.
having a critical mind around what you see and what you access and what you consume is the best way forward. So I think get in the comments and let us know what you really want us to address about when it comes to the impact of social media. Let us know what you use. Let us know if this has actually had a bit of thought-provoking for you with your own views as well. But on that note, thanks, Tony, for joining me once again.
Good to be here.
And we'll wrap it up there. Once again, get in the comments. Let us know what you want to see from us. Make sure you're liking and commenting on this video. And we'll see you guys very, very soon for some more videos.